Welcome to Heart to Heart.
Welcome. I'm Christina.
And I'm Robert.
And we're going to have a heart-to-heart conversation today.
Yes. So what's on your mind today, Christina?
Well, late last night I had a phone call from a friend and we started talking a little bit. And it sort of came out in the phone call that that there was another level of the onion in myself that I need to peel. So I got up this morning and kind of worked at that peel to kind of peel it off a little bit. And the topic had to do with rejection. I don't mean to spring something on you, but
that's how you have a heart-to-heart conversation. You don't know what's coming.
I didn't know, and this person doesn't normally call me. She'll call me every once in a while, and she just says, "You've got to work on that."
So, well, what do you think? Why do you think rejection is prevalent, and why do you think maybe it's so painful?
Well, very interestingly enough, when I was in meditation this morning, and when I was doing some reflection exercises on the topic of reflection, one of the things that came up for me is that there's no such thing.
Interesting.
Seriously, it doesn't exist. We gave it a label and we call a certain action somebody does a quote unquote rejection, but what came up is that there is no such thing.
Well, that's intriguing.
Yeah. And what came to me, and I thought this was so powerful, was that our birthright, we have certain things that we have when we're born, that we are entitled to when we're born, and like oxygen, but on a deeper level, on an invisible level, what we are entitled to as our birthright is to love and be loved. I mean, that's just something that is our natural birthright, I feel, like air. That is something that we are all entitled to. And when somebody walks away in our life and that person rejects, quote unquote, rejects us, our natural instinct is to reject them back, essentially, right? But when we're doing that, we're actually blocking our birthright to love. When we love, we are asked to come in. We come into this world with the ability to love. Our heart is so big that we can love each and every person on this planet. There are billions and billions of people on this planet. And we come in with enough love in our heart to love each and every one of them. And we can do that. We can love each and every one of them, but not love their actions. So we can separate out in our mind our love for them and their actions, and still love them, even though we might not like some of their actions. Because if we don't love them, if we shut that off, we're blocking our flow of energy.
Right. Well, I say quite often that we're born loving without anybody having to show us how to do that. And we're born happy for no reason. So you're using the term birthright. There's an ancient email that was sent to a group of people in a place called Galatia. And so anyway, there was a list, we love lists, and there was a list of divine attributes. And I don't know if I can remember all of them. There's 9. So let me see if I can do it. But it says that we were talking about spirit last week, that we are spirit, that there's no sense in trying to be spiritual. We are spirit and we're in a body. So when we come into the body, We have a very interesting natural condition. And guess what part of that is? We're at each other's mercy. We come, and even though the body is fully intact and functioning, we're, well, bald and toothless, and absolutely at the mercy of whoever happens to be here. And we evoke wonderful responses in people. The natural condition is for anybody to care for, and for a child. If that's not present, there's something wrong. But anyway, so here's the ancient email. The fruit of the Spirit, or the manifestation, the divine attributes of what we are, is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, meekness, and self-control. I think I got them all. So I'll ask you, and you see what you think. When a child is born into this world, is love present within that child?
Yes.
Joy?
Yes.
Peace?
Yep.
Patience? We have to set that one aside.
As a child, yes, yes, I'm sure.
I'll save us some time. If you find that email and you look at that list, the two things, and in my opinion, they're two sides of the same coin. We come here lacking patience and self-control. I mean, let's face it, you need somebody to change your diapers. You have no control over the self, and you have no patience. You want everything right now. Okay, so now here's something that I found interesting, being a father and being a grandfather. If or since we show up with so many of the divine attributes or expressions intact, then what does the parent or guardian need to provide? We don't need to teach them how to love. We don't need to teach joy. We don't need to teach any of those things. We need what's lacking, and guess what that is? Patience and self-control. Now, guess what we tend to do as human parents? To be impatient and controlling. And that can be perceived as rejection at a very young stage.
Right.
You're
but normally, if a parent isn't those things to a child, and those are two areas where that parent needs to grow, because the lessons aren't learned yet in life. This is why we're here for so many years, hoping that we will become all of those attributes inside. But sometimes that parent isn't there yet. And if we have resentment towards that person for not providing what we think are our needs, whether they're too controlling or they're not patient with us, and if we have bitterness and if we hold negative energy around this person, then we are blocking our own light. So it's important to see that person, just because, and we've had this conversation, although not on here, but just because a person looks grown on the outside doesn't mean they're grown in here. And I think part is wanting to become all those attributes is allowing the other person a chance to grow, is noticing that, loving that person and realizing that person is not there yet. And just,
if that ancient email is correct, we don't have to develop any of these things except patience and self-control.
But we block.
We need to express them, but they don't necessarily need to be developed. It's covered up under the fruit of impatience and controlling people.
Right.
Okay. There's a lot of negative emotion, a lot of negative energy, and you were talking about being children. Listen, if we look real close at our world and look at it from this perspective, we can notice something. Bodies continue to grow. Okay? And so you end up with a big, strapping, grown-up body. But what you're dealing with and who you're dealing with standing in front of you is a child, and usually a hurt child.
Yes, right. So
There's
if
a
we're
difference
confronted, right, but if we're confronted by that person, the last thing we want to do is be in a negative energy around that person. In other words, that person needs
patience
love.
and self-control.
Exactly. That person needs love.
Right.
Needs our understanding. In order to have understanding, we've got to be able to separate the person from their actions. And still love them anyway. We have to. We have enough love to love everybody.
Well, that's right. But we're impatient and we're controlling. Okay? Children will cause you, if you go along with the program, if you let them be the teacher, they'll teach you patience because they require you to have it. They'll teach you self-control because, well, if you don't, your child's going to be lost from proper care and things like that. So, but just like our bodies aren't finished developing, it takes us 20 years to get to what we call adulthood. You know, somewhere around that time, we begin to consider someone, well, it's time to be a grown-up. But what about spiritually, emotionally, intellectually?
Exactly.
So if you, and I don't want to go down the topic of politics, but I'm going to bring this up just for an example. I recall our last election and everything leading up to the election, and I watched on both sides of this aisle a bunch of children. Okay, sounded like maybe 4th or 5th grade, hurling insults and acting so childish. There's a difference between the beauty of childlikeness and just the detriment of childishness.
Right. But the point is, okay, yes, we see this, but do we throw insults back at them? Do we call them names? Do we say they're not fit for office? Or do we love them anyway?
Well, as we grow up, we're going to stop. We're going to stop a lot of the things that we're doing. Humanity is real proud of itself, okay, and doesn't recognize that we're a child. I mean, even though we have grown-up bodies, we wear costumes. We put on costumes, and then we think it makes us someone else,
right.
Whatever that costume is. And all of a sudden, I have power and I have authority over another person. We've had thousands and thousands of years in the name of God and goodness and so forth and so on, but the acting out of children arguing over an invisible friend. Think about that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not trying to speak against God or religion or anything like that, but when you're ready to go to battle because your invisible friend you think is better than somebody else's invisible friend, what are we doing?
Right.
Okay, we're being children, and we're being wounded children with big bodies, lots of money, and expensive toys, and all kinds of weapons. Okay, but we're still dealing with little bullies on a playground. We're still dealing with pettiness. We're dealing with childishness.
Yes. Right.
As we develop in love as a species, we put away childish things. Part of maturity
and childish toys.
That's right. Part of maturity is putting away childishness, not childlikeness. So we need, if we strengthen our patience, we find out that being patient feels good. We think that being patient doesn't feel good. It's when we're presented with a challenging person and our patience is being pushed beyond what we've experienced.
Exactly.
And we're pushing against the situation rather than to just sit back and to sink back into the peacefulness of the center of yourself and just have grown-up patience.
You know, and it's so interesting too, is that, you know, a lot of these times when we are quote unquote rejected, that person actually, a lot of the time, exits our life. Sometimes permanently, sometimes for a few months, whatever, that person actually leaves. And I'm of the belief that everything happens the way it's supposed to. And when I see a person exit the life, instead of thinking I've been rejected, I've been abandoned, a better way to look at it is I've been protected. The universe loves me because this person who needs to grow might be a little toxic to be around. So the universe says, you know what? This person is not acting in this loving way. So this person's gonna leave for a little while and go on that person's path and have experiences for that person to grow and to uncover the love that's within that person. But as a person that is feeling those emotions of this person exiting a life, your life, then instead of looking at it like I've been rejected, I've been abandoned, if you can just stay in that love vibration for this person and recognize that the universe loves me. I'm being protected here a little bit because this person needs to be on their own and they need to grow. They need to have experiences. And when they come back, they won't be the same person. And certainly you're not going to be the same person. So it's a different dynamic of two people coming together at a different point in life and exploring from a different vantage point. And I never really realized that and how powerful that is. Because like I said, there isn't a rejection, there's a growth. There's an inner growth.
Well, you mentioned the word
like that. It doesn't feel so like, oh, this person left my life, I'm devastated. It doesn't feel that way when you think about it, and it's just a matter of changing your thoughts, changing your perceptions about what you're going through, and turning it around and seeing it from a different vantage point will allow you to heal. And then when you're healing, this is also sending positive energy to the other person, because that person, we are telepathically connected. And if you're sitting here in an angry state for something somebody did or said, or an action this person took, and you can't get over it, and you're just feeling these emotions, you're actually telepathically sending those feelings, whether you're in the same room with this person or not, to that person. So you can, by letting go and realizing that I'm going to love this person anyway, because my heart's big enough to, and I'm going to allow this person to step aside and do what this person needs to do, and me as well. And then let's see where life brings it in the future. I'm not then, or the person, whoever this is happening to, is not in that vibration of anger, of regret. It's really an amazing thing, is just change your thoughts about the situation. Look at it differently. And you can turn your whole life around.
Well, you mentioned the word toxic. Just like the body takes more time to develop. Now, imagine a body that is malnourished. It doesn't have what it needs, or there's some sort of an injury or illness that stunts physical growth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So here we show up with all the divine attributes intact. And here's what we're needing. We're needing to develop patience and self-control. Again, that's two sides of the same coin. But as we're growing, as the spirit, a soul, whatever you want to call your non-physical self, as you're growing, it's very common in my experience that a wound, injury takes place in this unseen world, in this internal world that we all experience and make up different stories to try to talk about it. And growth stops.
Yes, right. And that's another reason why it's so important to change your perspective. because you're stunting your emotional growth, especially if it's something happened in childhood.
Well, this is what I'm saying, and you can reverse engineer some of this stuff.
Absolutely.
Within yourself.
Exactly.
And this goes back to the mirror and the wagon.
We're going to be carrying that wagon in every single podcast.
Well, it's okay. It's okay, because that becomes toxic when we're wounded as a child, and then we just continue on. The body grows. We get into different stories. We get into different roles, and now I'm all grown up, and I'm this, I'm that. But are you really?
Mm-hmm.
Are you really? Because a whole lot of us are acting in such childish manners.
Right.
And triggered, and don't realize that we're triggered. And going through life just, I felt an emotion. And then, wham, stop touching me. All the stuff that children do. Right. If you watch it without judgment, if you watch it with a little bit of love and maybe a twinkle in your eye, you'll start seeing that we really are, as a species, children, all dressed up.
Right.
Where to go.
Exactly.
So, but when we see that this wounded child, I love to tell stories, and I'll try to tell you a brief one. I went through a difficult situation years ago involving a divorce, and I had held my chin up and did everything a man's supposed to do concerning children and family, and I felt like I was doing it, work, and just get through the day, but on the inside, just devastated. But whenever I would have a telephone conversation with my ex-wife, the one I was experiencing this divorce situation with, I would not handle anything well. I would fall apart emotionally and say such dumb things and behave in such a manner that afterwards I was embarrassed. I was a little ashamed of myself. And after one of those encounters, I was in the shower, my portal, and I was in the shower and I was upset and crying over that conversation and the way I was feeling about the whole situation. And just in a moment, it was just a flash, I was standing at the foot of my mother's bed, who was angrily packing a bag, and she was going to leave my dad, and they were having a spat, and I was devastated. I was frightened. And of course, they patched it up. My parents had both passed, and they stayed together for the whole ride. But I saw that. I saw myself standing at the foot of my mother's bed. I saw my mother packing these bags. I saw that. So here I am, a seemingly grown man in the shower, but at the same time, I was this little boy. Now, when I saw that, lights came on inside myself. And not lights come on to go blame my mother or go blame my father. You know what dawned on me? Little Robert.
Right.
That little Robert.
Little Robert needs some healing.
He's not dead. And so I went to him. Now I mean this. I went to him. I went to little Robert just the way I would go to my own sons or my daughter. I went to little Robert inside myself and said, it's okay. I got you. We're through that. We're going to get through this. And the presence of peace came. And a lot of other things came. Now, it was still a difficult season to go through, a difficult experience to go through. But now I can tell you this, from that moment of me going to little Robert and trying to help him out just a little bit, that dynamic between my spouse and myself completely changed. And we have continued on for over 25 years. She was over just the other night to pick up the grandchildren and stayed, and we had a wonderful conversation. We're still good friends. So that wounded, and here's the other thing that my experience has shown me. That wounded child is driving the car. So
Yeah. I
Unless,
had the same thing.
until we go there, until we go to heal
Right.
the wounded place within ourselves, that childishness and that wounded child, and we've made up names for this, devils and demons and evil and so forth and so on, and you're dealing with a very wounded child that's become infected and toxic.
Right.
And is acting these things out unconsciously.
Right. Yeah.
And want somebody to fix it for them.
Exactly. Well, I mean, we play out our injuries over and over and over again that we've received as a child. And one of the most powerful things we can do, and I have done this as well, is go to our inner child and speak to that child. First, let that child speak to us. What are you thinking? What are you feeling? And sometimes we have to go back into those experiences that were the most painful in our life. And we've got to go to that child. We got to let that child speak. And when that child speaks to us, we can listen. And then we can let the grown-up part of ourselves speak to that child and say, it's okay. You know, you're going to be okay.
That's
you
right.
Grow up okay. Everything's going to be okay. And when you do that, it changes the whole experience. It gives you totally new perception. Instead of feeling like a victim, you feel empowered. That child is no longer sitting there crying over the incident, because the child then knows, hey, I got past this. I did it. So I don't need to be in this energy anymore. And finding forgiveness is the most powerful thing we can do, especially for the person that we perceive that has hurt us or quote unquote rejected us. It's finding forgiveness and letting go and knowing that that person did the best they could at the time. They couldn't have done any better, or they would have. They're acting in however they felt was the best in whatever. You know, you might not agree with it. You might not agree with that, whatever it is that they did. But in that instance, in their minds, they were doing the best they can. So allowing that for that and just letting that person go, because we have energetic cords to people. And we don't see them. They're not physical. They're not visible. But when we carry around hurt energy and anger and rejection, and when we carry these things around with us, we are still bound to these people. And that's
that's right. It influences everything. And we leave.
And we keep until we heal that, there's that mirror, we're going to keep attracting to us the same situation over and over and over again. But when you start to heal from the situation, you can recognize that situation when it comes to you. And you can look at this person and you can say, I'm not repeating this mistake again. I've already done this. I'm through this. And you can just love that person and send that person on their way if need be. But we don't have to. We need to recognize the patterns that exist in our lives that we keep perpetuating over and over and over again to keep us feeling like a victim. And when we become empowered and we realize, hey, I just have to love and be loved. Allow people to love me. And I don't want to block my channel of love to anybody.
Well, that's right. And think about this. Before the wound, before this unseen place that's really, I'm telling you, I know that term is so cliche sounding, the inner child, but for most of us, guess who's driving? Okay? Yeah. Guess who's driving your story? Do you know why? Because it's not going to be ignored.
Right.
And a lot of the stuff that comes up in the story comes up, like we were talking about, with metaphorical messages, all kind of things, to try to get us to go back to this place and to heal that place. Now, guess what was there before the wound? All of the attributes, all of the divine attributes, except patience and self-control.
Right. But love is always there.
That's right. Well, that's what I'm trying to tell you. So in our inner experience, we go back to experience love and joy.
And that's all we want.
Peace. That's right. And so
that's what we're here to do.
That's right.
That's it.
That's all.
That's it. It's that simple. Just love. Allow yourself to be loved and to be loved. and to recognize that when you're not acting in a loving manner, you're blocking your energy, your own energy for love. So turn the switch on. Let the love switch stay on. Don't let somebody come and turn their switch off. Leave it on.
Well, we don't think the love is there or the happiness is there because we don't feel those things. Guess what we're feeling? We're feeling our experience with life as we continue to be impatient and try to control other people.
Mm-hmm.
And both of those things are fearful. Those are fearful places to live. You know, if somebody is impolite in traffic and cut you off, just let them keep driving.
Right.
You don't need any story. You don't need anything. There's nothing you can do anyway. It's already happened. Be patient. Love is patient.
Right. Boy, I've come a long way. When you say that, I remember loving to put my middle finger up at drivers when they tried to pass me, because I'm a very slow driver, and I have a lot of cars passing me, and I would just be like, oh, sticking up my finger. I mean, that was back in the day, and that it was fun. It was like, look what I do. But now, as an adult, I realize I'm blocking my flow. That I can just, instead of that person passing me and putting my finger up, I can say, you know what, I love you. That's a lot more empowering. It feels a lot better.
Well, there's a lot of us, because we all think we're grown-ups because we have big bodies and big bank accounts, and we don't realize how childish we are.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And then you can run around and call everybody childish and be just as childish as you want to by calling them childish. And when you get tired of that, you can begin to be patient.
Right.
It's patient.
Even a person that is doing that is on their own path.
That's right.
And as people that are on the path themselves, our task is to recognize that and to not judge them for where they are.
Right. But a whole lot of the rejection and the stuff, I mean, there's people that have had traumatic stories, you know, so absolutely. I'm not intended to downplay any of that or to oversimplify anything. But listen, as simply as I can tell you, patience feels good.
Right.
Love is patient. Patience means that you allow somebody their own space and they're maybe reacting clumsily to their story. You know what I'm talking about, and you probably do it. I mean, we all do it. You right. Get up, and it's like you stub your toe, and then you go, and then, you know, it gets worse from there. And somebody cuts me off in traffic, and this person standing in front of me in the line is talking to the checkout girl too long, or the checkout girl is this. And just, if we'll notice, if we'll watch, there's an impatient little child stomping its little feet. Stomping its little feet. And guess where? Inside me.
Right.
And I am trying to judge and label and control other people and try to get the whole world to rearrange, to adjust to my little wounded inner child.
Exactly.
And we don't realize we're doing it.
Exactly.
We don't realize it. But when you do begin to realize it, what you'll do is you'll begin to take care of things inside yourself.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And be patient.
That takes awareness of your thoughts, awareness of your emotions, awareness of your feelings, and the willingness to do something about them and own it. I'm feeling this way. Own your own perceptions. Don't try to cast blame. Oh, somebody did this to me, so this is why I feel this way. Own it. Part of being an adult is owning it and doing something about it. And letting that person go. Let them grow.
Oh, yeah. And you can just, you know, if you sit and talk with enough people, you can just be patient and sit and listen, and they'll tell you all this stuff. And then in the telling of that, they've just made a list of all the people, places, and things they need to forgive.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's already over. It's already happened.
Mm-hmm.
It's only happening over and over again inside the mind of an angry child usually. I'm
Yeah.
telling you,
Yeah.
there's wisdom that's available to all of us. It flows up naturally from our hearts as we open our hearts and be loving. Okay, the same kind of wisdom that you'd find with a Jesus or a Buddha or whatever you want to point to exists inside you.
Right. It's in our heart.
It's already there.
A heart to heart. It's just flowing out. Whatever needs to be heard, it just comes right out.
Where do we think all those spiritual rock stars got their stuff from? Okay, we try to make it overly complicated.
Right.
But if we go back and look at it, you know what you see? You see a mature old soul.
Right. Connecting with themselves.
That's right. But you see them caring for their neighbor, loving their neighbor as their self, and encouraging that type of stuff.
Yes.
And being benevolent. All these spiritual rock stars that we've enthroned, you know, throughout the ages, they're normal functioning humans.
Yes. And they have their moments too. And maybe they're not in the books, but they've had their moments too.
Oh, of course. We filter out a lot of stuff, but they're normal functioning humans.
Exactly.
Who are not wounded. And they say things like, unless you become as a child, you can't see the kingdom of heaven. Now, that's not talking about childishness.
Right.
That's talking about on the other side, before the woundedness took place,
right.
Before this petulant little child that's driving your story,
right.
Before that.
Find the love, it's there.
It's already there. It's not gone anywhere.
It's right here.
That's right.
It's right there. I see it in you. It's there.
There's nowhere for you to go.
President. I can see it in anybody. I can see it in the person that decided, I don't want you in my life anymore. It's there.
Yes.
It's everywhere. It's in the trees.
Hey, Christina, have I told you today how happy I am?
Oh my gosh, that'll be our next one.
You think?
Yes, we're giving people a sneak peek. But it was wonderful to talk to you today.
Oh, it's always good to talk to you. And listen, if you're enjoying these little talks and these videos, we'd like to keep doing them. So we're going to ask you to like, subscribe, and share. So we can just all participate in something together that, I don't know, seems fun to me. Does it seem fun to you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we can also invite people if they have a question or a topic they would like for us to discuss.
Oh, that would be fun.
Yeah, to maybe put a comment on the video.
Okay.
And we would be glad to do that.
Well, thank you for watching. And Christina, thank you for calling. I love it when you contact me. Heart conversations.
Yeah, thank you. It's always a lot of fun.
Well, until next time, heart to heart.
Heart to heart.
Bye-bye.
Bye.